So, my name is Micah Johnson, and I am the creator and founder of Virtual Tourist, along with my team member, Harrison Williams, who is not here. He couldn't make it. Uh, but Virtual Tourist, we want to turn the world into your own personal museum. And the problem is, history is important to how we understand our place in society, but it's very inaccessible. It's only found in museums, books, and documentaries. There's no real way for us to interact with history in this like interactive way of like AR. That's not the world around you. Uh, so there's no way for communities to tell their stories in an interactive way, and their stories are all around us. I say that because, for example, last year I did a podcast with this man. I live in Alabama with this man who his name is Elo Bishop, and he had a tremendous story. Uh, he could recall events back to the 1900s. Could retrace his own history. Could tell the history of everything around him, et cetera, how he started his business, et cetera. But no one really knows the story because it's not some big cultural event. Uh, but there's stories like that all around us, especially here where I'm at in the South. There's tons of interesting stories, but there's no way for me or anybody else to easily interface uh, with these stories. So the solution is a web app that allows creators and organizations to create landmarks and tell their stories, and then a mobile app for the end user that allows the users to scan their landmarks and access these users' created stories. So we're enabling more personal stories from within people's own communities. And here's the demo. And so this is built on Bubble. So you can see, let me click play. Sorry. So this is Trowbridge's an ice cream bar locally here. It's been here since 1918. Uh, and one can
This has served
imagine
the
the amount
shoals.
of stories that are
Trowbridge's
here.
is located in historic.
And so what it does is once you take a picture of a historical landmark or some historically relevant place, it returns information about the place. The place can then, the story of the place can be heard through audio or you can read it. This is just our minimal viable product. And then I want to go into how we're gathering or how we built the AI model. So gathering data. So initially we trained it on 10 data points within the local area. So we scraped images of these places online and then we labeled each image according to its name. And then training the model. So this was something we had to do a bunch of trial and error with since it is a small data set, 151 examples, only 10 to 15 images per each place. So we ended up having to use the efficient net B6 snippet with single label image classification and 80% training with 20% validation and the stratification technique whenever assorting the data set. But we ended up getting the model to perform fairly accurately, uh, which I was very surprised because it looked so bad. Like whenever I was first doing it with such a small data set, uh, it was like most of these numbers were like in the 60s and 70s. But we've gotten it close to perfect and it's performing really well. So that now that we know that how to properly train the model, whenever we want to add more images and such into it, the model will be able to quickly pick up on it and differentiate between images and labels and classes. And for the deployment, we used Bubble to deploy the model. So how it works is we uploaded the data points within the Bubble database. And then when a picture is taken, it's sent to the Peltarian API, and then a prediction is made. And then what we do is we do a search for the Peltarian prediction within our Bubble database. And whatever the match is, it's able to pull up all the information of the prediction. So when it does a search for Trowbridges, it's not only pulling up the name Trowbridges, but it's able to pull up all the information about Trowbridges. So for example, like the story or the location or um, different articles about the place, or maybe in the future, what other stories or what other things happen there from different people. So like somebody fell in love at Trowbridges. These are like the interesting stories that we want to enable people to hear and see. And then our business model. So once I want to think about like our business model in a more like interesting like way. So we're basing it off like a token system. So a user buys a set amount of tokens. Tokens are needed to scan landmarks to reveal the stories. And once the landmark creator or storyteller receives one of the landmark creator, excuse me, receives a token each time a landmark is scanned. So it's like a streaming service kind of. So every time you take a picture of a landmark, you use one of your tokens and it's sent to the creator. And that creator is eventually able to redeem those tokens for monetary value. And then our go to market. So we've been able to talk to some local tourist organizations, and they're wanting to actually implement this within their businesses and organizations this summer. So mainly like tourist organizations and historical organizations. I would say primarily in the South because that's how we currently understand the market now. Is there's a bunch of these like interesting stories and historical events in the South of just like crazy things you wouldn't expect, and then eventually want to open the platform to allow the everyday person to add stories to specific locations. So how I was saying, like you might want to know about who fell in love with Trowbridges. So you would add like in the future, so you'd have the ability like I proposed to you at Trowbridges, etc., and then tell the story of uh, the different places you went on your engagement night, etc. So these more personal stories like that, we want to be able to enable people to tell these stories with other people and share them for the world, basically. And then, so again, as I said in the beginning, this is our team. I'm Micah, and then my partner Harrison Williams, who couldn't be here. But thank you. That is.